asked a guy who was a senior, the freshman, I said, you know, from El Campo, Texas, El Campo, if I could go to a school, a big school, I know that I could do well if I got the proper training. He said, I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to write a letter. So we wrote a letter to Ted Banks, who incidentally, I didn't understand at the time, until later, was at one point, a head coach at Pasadena City College. But Ted Banks was at UTEP, winning championships, and I told him I'd be interested in the program. He replied, thank you, be interested in the program. However, we very seldom accept transfer students. Contact Willie Skip Robinson. So there you go. Now that would have been 1977. Coach Robinson had sent a guy on a track team named Sal and Sam Sawney. Sam Sawney was from Grenada and Sal, and they picked me up. And I stayed with them for a few days because he was trying to get me situated. The roommates that I ended up with was the Olympic champion from Jamaica, Donald Quarry's brother, Ray Quarry, and a guy named Eddie E. Wright. We had two Eddie Wrights. We had an Eddie Wright that was a half miler, both of them from Brooklyn, and Eddie E. Wright, Eddie Eugene Wright. So Eddie was my roommate who eventually played football at Wake Forest. I said, this place is very smoky. When I looked up at the mountains, and I said, why is it always smoky out here? And someone explained to me, that's not smoke, that's smog. What was shocking was the facilities at Pasadena were excellent. When I'm speaking of facilities, I'm talking about where you get your education. They had a radio station because I wanted to go in the radio. Prairie View didn't have that. Black colleges didn't have. Pasadena could compete with a lot of, to me, HBCUs as far as facilities concerned. So I really enjoyed that. We would get jobs. The late Bill Johnson was one of our coaches. Bill Johnson was excellent, par excellent on recruiting. And so Bill was like a big brother to me. Skip was like a big brother to me. So I really enjoyed that. We would go, and my roommate and I I didn't have a car. We would take a shopping cart and go down to Safeway over there, I think on Madre in Colorado, and he would buy these big pot roasts and I would buy fish, and we would just go and cook and this, that, and the other. And then I have nothing but fond memories. I really have. I enjoyed my teammates. I enjoyed people. And I learned we had a whole slew of talent that year in 1977 that could probably compete against a lot of Division II and Division III schools and probably win. That's how good we were. We had much better depth than when we won the state championship in '78. Everything just seemed to fall apart. And what I mean by that is we won the Metro Conference. We won the Southern California finals. But things just fell apart. We had two triple jumpers, Greg Raleigh and myself, and we were over 50 feet. We had Sidney Mitchell in the long jump. At that time, Sidney was doing a lot of 24s, and the state he finished with 25. Elvester Strong won the state meet in the 400 meter hurdles. Our sprinters, Ricky Jackson, Eddie Wright, Kevin Jackson on there. We some guy they called Rock Ball. Okay, so we had a slew of sprinters. That team was stacked for not doing well in the state meet. Transitioning, and to this day, I thank my lucky stripes and thank God and thank Skip, because at the end of this season, I didn't make it to the state meet, and I remember going home crying. I didn't know what I was going to do. I kind of got an offer, I think, by Arkansas State, and I got an offer by Texas Tech in Lubbock. I think in Lubbock. And I saw Skip during the summer, okay? Some guys were transferring out. And Skip said, Hayes, if you can find a way to get a letter from Prairie View, because I was hurt that first year too, to get that coach to write a letter, we might be able to petition to get another year of eligibility. And that played on my mind, that if Skip had not said that, Ken Hayes would not have been at Pasadena in 1978. So I started working on that. So I was ineligible half the season. So even though I set a national record, no telling how far I would have jumped had I started with my teammates. So I had to wait to get approved. When I got approved, as the great Paul Harvey said, the radio commentator, you know the rest of the story. My deceased brother asked me a question one time, Leonard. He said, I notice when you talk about your experiences, you always mention Pasadena and you always mention USC. You never mention Prairie View. Is there any particular reason why? And I told him, I said, Leonard, I said, you know, because I went through so much down there, okay? And I was just a freshman. I was there a year and a half. So Prairie View, it wasn't like Pasadena. I can remember the first party we had at Pasadena City College when they had it at the Student Union building. Okay, fundraiser. We had funny guys on the track team. Joe Dunstan, those guys. We just had a great time. Pasadena, it was vibrant. It was fresh for me, being a Chicago boy. And, you know, like I said, I never thought I was good enough to go to USC. I never thought about going to USC, to be honest with you. But I think it was divine order. And I say this to people, I say to people all the time because I tell them the story. My father died in 1961, and my mother had 4 boys. She's a school teacher. And I remember one time in high school, I asked my mother, I said, Mom, the coach, Mr. Richards said he could get me to a college in California. My mother looked at me and said, she was a school teacher, oh yeah? How you gonna get the money? Happened to be watching a football game on a Saturday. It was USC versus Notre Dame. Anthony Davis, that was 28-7 at halftime. USC won 55-28. I didn't know much about football, but it was a great experience. I saw the pageantry. I saw the Trojan horse. I saw the crowd. And then, like I said, who would have guessed so many years later that I would have been not just at Pasadena, but to go to USC. I'm probably the only athlete. Skip had a lot of state champs that were more talented than me. But I was the only, I'm not sure, I think I might have been Skip's only double state champ, number 1. And number 2, which I really thought about, is I'm probably Skip's only athlete to be qualified for the Olympic trials in both 80 and 84. I qualified for both the Olympic trials. 80, the problem I had was the boycott. And not only that, but I was ranked 3rd behind Carl Lewis, and Skip was very, very instrumental. Skip, Coach Anderson, you know, as far as talking to me about certain things that they felt as though I needed to do. And so I didn't go to the NCAAs, and I pulled my hamstring. I was ranked 3rd in the long jump and triple jump. Everybody I beat in the triple jump, including El Paso guy who won the NCAAs. And then also, when I got to the Olympic trials in 80, I decided to pull out. I was the first jumper because I thought about what Dr. Richard Gill told me. He said, you can go up there and pull your hamstring and we'll have to surgically repair it. So I didn't want that. So even though I was invited to the Olympic trials and I got ready, I took one run through and then I told the officials I'm scratching. And so that, you know, was pretty much my narrative, Pasadena. But I love the place. I still consider this my second home, even though I've only lived here a year and a half. All I've had was fond memories.
Yeah, from the windy streets of Chicago town, young Kenny Hayes had a dream to chase down. Left the cold for California sun, chasing greatness with a jump and a run. Came to Pasadena with fire in his eyes, at PCC where champions rise. On that runway he found his lane, every leap bringing glory and fame. Under coach Skip Robinson's watchful eye, he learned how to reach for the sky, speed in his stride, power in his soul. Every jump bringing him closer to the goal. Can he